Hello, my name is Chad Hart. I'm an extension economist at Iowa State University. And given that we're here in the middle of May, this is when USDA provides us their first outlook for the new crop. And so let's go over that and see what they've added for us as they look at the crop that's developing this year. So as we're looking at the market outlook this time around, what USDA is doing is they're incorporating what they found when they talked to farmers during March for the planting intentions, but also we're seeing their updates in terms of the demand side as well. And that's where I'm going to concentrate a lot of my talk here today on as we look at the changes they made when they first looked at the 2025 crop back with the ag outlook forum in February versus where we're at today. Now, in this case, what we're seeing here is the corn supply and use table. And as you look there for the 2025 crop year, what we are looking at is the biggest crop we've ever seen coming at us, with acreage going up to 95 million acres and at a trend line yield of 181 bushels per acre. You're looking at a potential corn crop of 15.8 billion bushels, which would be a record by far. The biggest crop up to this point was the one we grew in 2023, and it's about 500 million bushels smaller than what we're projecting for this year's crop. So we're going to be dealing with plenty of corn as we look out there. Now, as you jump down to the gray box for 2025, that gray box is showing you the demand side of the market. And USDA lays out what I would call a very rosy, sort of optimistic viewpoint as we're looking out for usage as well, as they see that continuing to be at a record pace itself. The challenge here is when we compare their numbers from February to May, what they ended up doing was they basically put all of the growth into the export line. As you're looking right now, they're saying exports, which are on the second best pace we've ever seen right now with the 2024 crop at 2.6 billion bushels. They're saying that will continue to grow now at 2.675 billion bushels. Now that is a good 275 million bushels above what they had that estimate at in February. So within the last 3 months, we've had a lot of this tariff discussion with the tariffs being put on and pulled off again, which most people believe will slow down international trade. And yet here we have USDA boosting that number significantly as we look at the 2025 crop. And so that I would argue is sort of the challenge, if you will, the corn market right now. Yes, exports are very strong, but will that necessarily continue over the next 18 months, especially if we do have more tariffs? Because without that, the corn market's going to have a hard time trying to figure out how to utilize all the corn that's possibly available here. As you can see, USDA does see some growth year over year in feed usage. Mainly, I would argue probably on the feed and in this case residual side. They're showing ethanol remaining at a very strong record level, actually, but not seeing much additional growth there. And so the challenge is going to be that corn's going to need the international market picking up the pace like USDA is hoping here in order to chew through this crop. But as it currently stands, USDA says, yep, this year's reprieve, if you will, with ending stocks dropping down, is going to be reset again and bouncing back up to 1.8 billion bushel ending stocks as we look towards the end of the 2025 marketing year. And that's going to continue to put downward pressure on prices. As you can see, the season average price, USDA put at $4.20 a bushel, which is where they put it back in February as well. So at least they stayed, if you will, consistent with the price outlook, even though they did put that significant jump on the export side here. And so it shows that, we're still continuing down this line of since 2022, we've seen that downward pressure on prices hit, and then we sort of been floating here in the low fours since then. Now, if we look at soybeans, arguably a somewhat similar tale in that as we're looking at this year's crop, USDA again was adjusting demand to sort of fit where supplies are trying to go. As we look at 2025, soybean acreage is coming down, but given trend line yields, we have the potential to produce just about as big a crop as we did last year. And in fact, the numbers are only about 26 million bushels apart. So basically, the size of this year's crop is the size of last year's crop as we're looking out there. But as we look down in that gray box again, USDA does show some usage growth for soybeans. In this case, though, they're putting more on domestic crush demand here. We have seen, additional biofuel use for soybeans, creating more renewable diesel. But we have also seen a very strong export market, not only for beans this year, but especially as we look at bean meal and bean oil. We have seen fairly strong markets there. Now, looking forward to 2025, though, for soybean exports, they do show those falling back off. So while they've got tremendous growth happening for corn, they're not showing that same sort of growth for soybeans here. Yeah, soybeans didn't necessarily need the growth because of the declining acreage there. And so in this case, actually, stocks are looking to decline as we go into 2025. And that's allowing USDA to say maybe we will start to see a little bit of a price rebound here, but not much of one. As you look there, they have the 2025 season average price at 10.25, which is 30 cents better than this year's season average price, but it's still well below where we've been 2021, 2022, 2023. Now, as far as getting these crops into the ground, planting progress for corn has been fairly strong, especially given how many acres we're going to put into the ground this year. As we looked around Mother's Day, we saw about 60% of the corns planted, which is a little bit ahead of average and about a week to a week and a half ahead of where we were at last year. So we're seeing good progress being made there because at a 60% level, that would say roughly almost 57, 58 million acres of corn have already been planted here by mid-May. When you're looking at the soybean side, we're running at a record pace right now. In fact, we got off the ground running very quickly and have been basically setting a record pace throughout this entire time. So we're standing here at about halfway planted on the soybean side, which would mean about 42 million acres of soybeans are in the ground here by mid-May. So we've got a really strong set of planting progress as we're looking forward here. If you're looking for analog years, most of the analog years would be within the past couple of years here as well, as we're looking at, the last 4 years in a row have been fairly dry to, start the planting year, if you will, for the most part. And that's allowed us to get off to some really good starts the last few years. And so this year's crop is definitely no exception to that. But when you look here and we're thinking, okay, we're looking at the biggest corn crop we've ever had, a soybean crop roughly the size of last year. Well, what's happening worldwide is we're seeing some similar things happening there, if you will. The 2025 world crop is expected to be the biggest it's ever been. In fact, if you take the U.S. number out, we are seeing some sizable growth outside the U.S. as well. Typically, we tend to concentrate on South America. In this case, what we're expecting for 2025 is for more growth in Argentina as far as corn is concerned. We do expect to see Brazil increasing as well. But you'll also notice there are many other parts of the world that are increasing corn production, whether we're looking at our neighbors to the south in Mexico, whether we're looking over towards Europe into the Black Sea region. The idea is we're seeing more and more corn growth throughout the entire globe. So it's not just the US that's going to be looking to sell more corn internationally in 2025. We're going to see some fairly strong competition when it comes to those export sales. And when we look at soybeans, even though the US is sort of trying to back off here a little bit in terms of production, that's not slowing down the global growth in soybean production. In fact, as we look here, you can see that Argentina, putting more into corn. We may see them fall back a little bit in soybeans, where Brazil continues to be that juggernaut, continuing to produce more and more bushels of soybeans for the rest of the globe. Now, as far as those export sales are concerned, to show you some of the data that pushed USDA to make those adjustments for 2025, as you can see here, soybean sales for 2024 are stronger than they were last year at this time, but not quite up to our 5-year average. And so it is likely that we will come in around that 1.85 billion bushels that USDA is expecting here at the end of the 2024 marketing year. But they're saying we'll likely fall back here as we look forward in the 2025. And I think a lot of that is expected because of the, let's call it the stronger concentration when it comes to this tariff fight between the US and China as opposed to the US with the rest of the world. On the other hand, as you look at the corn market, it has been a phenomenal run over the past, I'll say 6, 7 months here. You can see that, back last October was when we started to see this sort of surge in global demand for US corn. And that has basically continued unabated since then. And we're on the second best pace we've ever had. The only year that was better is the gray line on this chart, which is 2020. And so we're well on our way to reaching USDA's target of 2.6 billion bushels this year. And USDA, like I say, is projecting that we will be a little bit higher than that next year, but not quite reaching that gray line as you look here. So the other thing to notice here is that we look to finish out the 2024 marketing year, you can see that USDA is expecting these sales to tail off as we move into the summertime, which we usually tend to see as our sales, if you will, die down here for old crop sales. We tend to see them pick up again for new crop sales. And that's why when you look at the black line here, for example, our average when it comes to export sales, we usually start the year with about 600 million bushels of corn already sold in the global marketplace. Put all this together, what do you get? Well, you get prices that are hovering either at or below production cost right now. As you look here, our production cost estimates for 2025 were $4.30 per bushel for corn. That's off the left-hand axis here. For soybeans, it was $11.15 a bushel off the right-hand axis there. And as you can see, corn prices throughout this year, futures market prices have been generating a season average price estimate above that 430 line, but we're starting to approach it now. I think the concerns about the tariffs are starting to build up into the corn market and pulling that down, along with the possibility of this record crop coming down the line this fall. On the other hand, you look at soybeans, prices have been well below that production cost line throughout the entire year here, and we haven't really seen a lot of movement to push us back up there again. Even though we are planting fewer acres to soybean, we're looking at the same potential production and concerns about the biggest market we have for soybean. So it's looking to be another challenging marketing year as we're going forward here in 2025 into 2026. The big things to watch, I would say, moving forward right now will be as we get into next month, finishing up planting, see how well this crop emerges and develops there. Will we start to see some signals of hopefully building up a weather premium here over the next few weeks? Or if not, this is, as we get in deeper into June and July, is when we tend to see prices start to slide because of the outlook for that bigger crop coming down the line here. And so while things are tight right now, they could get tighter over the coming months, especially if our production, pathway continues to look good and our trade pathway continues to look murky. Well, with that, again, my name is Chad Hart. I'm an agricultural economist at Iowa State University. I want to thank you for your time. If I can stop sharing here, there we go. As we're looking forward again, like I say, June, we'll put out another report in the middle of the month. That will give us an updated snapshot of what we're seeing there. And what we'll also be watching for, I would say, is more evidence of possible trade frameworks, trade deals that could alleviate some of the export concerns as we're looking deeper into 2025. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.